Hey guys, we are watching more prophetic events unfold as the French president, Emmanuel Macron, continues to make his romantic moves on the harlot church. We read the title of a recent article. It says, "Why is Macron courting the church?" Courting the church. Courting as in considering marriage? What kind of marriage union do they want? The church in the Bible is signified by a woman. The state or kingdom is often signified by a beast with horns. In the article, we further read, why did Macron, a man from a non-religious family who requested baptism aged 12 and attended a Jesuit school, but he was somewhat mysterious about his precise religious beliefs, why did he ask French Catholics to increase their involvement in the public sphere? Surely he knew such comments would attract heat from those on the left and right who instinctively regard any specifically Catholic involvement in public affairs as threatening laicity, France's strict separation of the Republic from religion. It seems that things are changing. Perhaps the Catholic involvement in state affairs is becoming less threatening. The guard on France's historic stance against separation of church and state is being dropped and the wall of separation broken down. The Bible, speaking of the harlot church Babylon, tells us in the book of Revelation that she is to be courted by the kings of the earth. We read, quote, "With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away into the spirit, into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns." According to the article, Macron is courting the church and certainly is not being shy about it. Emmanuel Macron visited the Vatican recently, and his talk with Pope Francis was said to be a very productive one. But what we need to understand first before we go into this is that history is repeating itself. As the Bible states in Revelation 14:8, Babylon is fallen. Not once, but twice does it say is fallen. History repeats itself because many have failed to remember it, and therefore they repeat the same history. We are told that her judgment is due to her fornication with the kings of the earth. In the book of Daniel, the king Nebuchadnezzar had issues with mixing church and state. In Daniel 3, he built an image and made a decree that whoever did not worship the way the king desired were to be put to death. The head of church was the state even back then. Some had learned from their history, but many today still do not realize the principle. How does this fit with modern Babylon? We are told in Revelation 13 that there is a beast and an image. This first beast is given its power and seat from the red dragon in Revelation 12. Quote, "And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority." Revelation 13 verse 2. The parallel of this is in Revelation 17:3, where John said he saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman sits upon a red or scarlet-colored beast. The red dragon of Revelation 12 gave the seat and power to this harlot church. Here we see the papacy being given its power by the state, a symbol of Satan, but secondarily pagan Rome, whom we are told in Revelation 12 through Herod, tried to destroy the child Jesus as soon as he was born. The dragon, pagan Rome, gave her seat, power, and great authority. And how long was this power to be given for? We're told in verse 5 that there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given to him to continue 42 months, Revelation 13:5. This prophecy is discussed several times in the Bible. 42 months, sometimes called times, and half a time, means 3.5 years. It is also referred to as 1260 days, to which a woman in Revelation 12 is to flee in the wilderness for. In other words, get out of the cities, because the laws of the land will definitely be against you. History will repeat itself. In Numbers 14:34, when speaking of the Israelites in the wilderness, we are told, "I have appointed thee each day for a year." In 538, a reign of terror began when the papacy had complete domination over the kings of the earth. This domination lasted until 1798, 1260 years. In this were fulfilled the words of John when he said in Revelation 17:6 that I saw the woman drunk with the blood of saints and the blood of martyrs of Jesus. She had been drunk from a cup that was full of the blood and filthiness caused by her fornication with the kings of the earth. And to God this fornication was considered an abomination, Revelation 17:4. Such an abomination that we are told in Revelation 17:16 that it maketh her desolate. Before her reception of this power, however, she had a few states that were unwilling to accept her doctrine, 3 Aryan tribes, and in order to subdue these, she had to acquire the power of a king. In 496 AD, King Clovis of France was baptized by the papacy. In 508 AD, a major defeat of the Aryan tribe, the Visigoths, took place, and Clovis was honored as the first daughter of the Roman Church. This began the 1290-day prophecy spoken of in Daniel 12 from 508 to 1798. Recently, Pope Francis reminded Emmanuel Macron about this history, perhaps because they are about to repeat it together. In an article from Breitbart.com entitled "Pope Francis Reminds Emmanuel Macron of France's Christian Tradition," we read, "Often referred to as the eldest daughter of the Church, France became Christian in 496 AD when the Frankish King Clovis was baptized by Saint Remigius in the Cathedral of Reims. Ever since the French Revolution, however, with its deep-set anti-Catholicism, France has been immersed in its own version of secularism or laicity that often borders on contempt for the faith rather than just a healthy separation of spheres. The Bible says in Daniel that from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days, Daniel 12:11. In Revelation 17, we read that the 10 horns are 10 kings, Revelation 17:12, and that the 10 horns make her desolate and burn her with fire, Revelation 17:16. In other words, the acquisition of state power on behalf of the church was the sin of harlotry, and this sin of playing the harlot is an abomination that makes her desolate. And similar to Jerusalem in 70 AD, the result is that she is to be burnt with fire. Leviticus 21 verse 9 says that the daughter of any priest, if she profane herself by playing the whore, she profaneth her father, she shall be burnt with fire. Using the state power of Clovis, king of France, to eliminate the Visigoths in 508 AD, this was considered an abomination that maketh desolate. The papacy then used state power to eliminate 2 other Aryan tribes, one in 533 AD and finally in 538 AD, she eliminated the Ostrogoths, the 3rd tribe, which would begin this 1260-year time and half a time reign of terror. Thus the fulfillment of the following concerning this Antichrist power. Quote, "And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them. And he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until the time and times and the dividing of time." He subdued the 3rd king, the Ostrogoths, in 538. He changed the 4th commandment concerning the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. This is their admission. In fact, this beast power has a mark, and this change to Sunday she calls her mark of authority. Quote, "Of course the Catholic Church claims the change Saturday Sabbath to Sunday was her act, and the act is a mark of her ecclesiastical authority in religious things. Is it any wonder that Macron was recently down in India uniting many nations into what they are calling a solar alliance? And during that meeting, prayer was made by External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj, who said, 'I would like to bow before the Sun God. O Sun God, we bow before you. You illuminate the external and the internal world, and you are the best to be adored and worshipped. May you bless us,' she said with folded hands." Sunday, Sun God worship. And all of this coming on the heels of agendas meant to save the environment, which Pope Francis has been a large part of with his environmental encyclical. Some churches are even saying that in order to enforce environmental justice, Sunday keeping would be a huge part of that. And so the papacy ruled the world during the Dark Ages and destroyed over 50 million people using the state power until 1798, when that power was finally taken away by Napoleon of France. She changed the 4th commandment from Sabbath to Sunday, and she tells us that she is changing God's times and laws. Prophecy foretold a deadly wound in 1798 when Napoleon's General Berthier captured the Pope. It was thought that the reign of this terror that the papacy had over the state was ended forever. However, since that time, things have definitely changed, and her wound was only temporary. Revelation 13:3 says, "I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast." The Pope being taken captive by General Berthier was most certainly the fulfillment of Revelation 13 and the deadly wound. But we are told that this wound was to be healed, and that an image to the beast would be set up. Another church and state union exercising the same power. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Revelation 13:12. The wound was caused by the Protestant Reformation and the divisions which led to mass persecution, and finally France saying, enough is enough, and no longer consenting to the state being used by the papacy to enforce her moral government decrees. General Berthier captured the Pope in 1798, fulfilling the words, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Revelation 13:10. In 1929, a Lateran Treaty was signed, which newspapers headlined, Wound of Many Years Healed. But this was only one state, Italy. There is much more to the healing of this deadly wound. This beast has many horns or kings, and the most notable powers to stand against the papacy since that time have been France and the United States. They must be subdued. In a recent news article, we read the headline that Macron is asking the church for wisdom. An article on Christianity Today reads French President Macron faces backlash from secularists after calling for closer ties between church and state. In the article, we read, the French President Emmanuel Macron has come under fire from political and secular critics after calling for the country's notoriously divided church and state to mend their damaged relationship. If we've done so, it must be because somewhere we share the feeling that the link between church and state has been damaged, that the time has come for both of us, you and me, to mend it. Mending the wounds of division has been the theme of this papacy. In an article from Breitbart.com, we read the following concerning that tradition. The event was the first time a French head of state had accepted an invitation by Catholic clergy to address such a topic. In a country that has historically prided itself for its firm separation of church and state, Macron said the meeting defied skeptics on both sides by attempting to repair a tie that has been inconsistent through the years, healing or repairing ties or wounds of division. Macron, in his recent visit to the Pope, accepted the title First and Honorary Canon, a title that was used on previous kings but has not been used in many years. We are told by the Catholic Herald that this acceptance has to do with Macron's reconciliation or rapprochement of the church and state. The reconciliation. Quote, the symbolism of Macron's acceptance is that it builds on this notable April speech at the Collège des Bernardins in France, which was significant in its tenor of rapprochement in state and church relations. In the speech, Macron set out his view. As head of state, I am the guarantor of the freedom to believe and not believe, but I am neither the inventor nor the promoter of a state religion which substitutes divine transcendence with a republican creed. He also said that for biographical, personal, and intellectual reasons, he was getting a higher idea of Catholics and encouraged dialogue and cooperation. He talked of sharing, explaining the state and the church relationship has been strewn with mutual misunderstandings and mistrust. The state is certainly courting the church, and the marriage union of Babylon the harlot has all but given us the understanding that we have a cry to be made. Babylon is fallen because of her fornication with the kings of the earth.
We will succeed because we are fully committed. Because wherever we live, whoever we are, we all share the same responsibility. Make our planet great again. Thank you.
Even Macron is saying that we all want to make our planet great again. It is interesting that on the front of the EU Observer page is a picture of French President Macron with German Chancellor Angela Merkel, and the article is entitled, Make Europe Great Again. In an article from Breitbart.com, Hungary Prime Minister Viktor Orban has said that governments should be dedicated to Christian values that made Europe great. And what were the Christian values that made Europe great? A state controlled by the Catholic Church? Interestingly, the title from Breitbart about the Christian values that made Europe great are being echoed by Donald Trump.
Washington politicians have been hostile to the church. They have been hostile to Catholics. They have been hostile to the members of Catholicism. My administration will stand side by side with the American Catholics to promote the values we all share as Christians and Americans. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. We will make America great again.
Please note that these are Catholic values. And Trump definitely seems to agree. Like Macron, Trump also is courting the church. In fact, he has made his vows to the apostate daughters of Babylon, vowing like Herod to give up half of his kingdom. Certainly a king of the earth is courting Jezebel and soon to use that state power to hunt down those who may be the Elijah or the 7,000 who would not bow to Baal. A harlot woman who married the Herod of her day, and Herod or Trump making a vow to her harlot daughter, the church, to give half the kingdom is very similar to what we have in this last day. Finally decreeing by the power of the state vested in the woman that the head of John should be severed, John being the man who came in the spirit and power of Elijah in that day. And today we have one more Elijah message. A message of repentance, a message that denounces the false worship system of the woman and adulterous union of the king with her. A beast with its church and state wound of division healed, and an image of that beast forming a similar union. Babylon is fallen, is fallen. Are you seeing the sign before you? Are you fleeing from the midst of Babylon? Are you seeing that she has committed an abomination that maketh desolate? Jesus is coming. Are we ready?